Hey everybody, welcome back to Tomcat Zone. We are here to start our fourth installment here of the 7th Fleet Victory Games Indian Ocean, or not Indian Ocean War, that was our last battle. Pacific War here, World War III in the Pacific. This is going to be turns 4 and 5. We never made a log file for turn 4. We just have a save game. So when we go through turn 4, it's going to be real simple. We're just going to be basically looking at some points, some bullets of what occurred in game turn 4 and what was important that happened then, and then go through game turn 5. We do actually have log files for all of the action segments of game turn 5. And then once we finish this video, I'll be starting a video for games turns 6 through 9. All of them were captured basically in 2 log files that we did face to face. It's going to be telling as far as what actually occurred in 6 through 9, but I have some vague recollection of what occurred, so I'm looking forward to seeing those log files played out. But this one should be relatively brief, and at least game turn 4, the portion of game turn 4 will be, and of course going through action segments 1 through 6 for game turn 5. Well, you'll see what we had going there. So let's go ahead and get started here. We come back to our game in game turn 4, and you're going to see actually this says game turn 5 because, as I said, this is just a save game. It's not a log file. All we have is the end results of game turn 4 that I captured, and where it picks up for game turn 5. So real quickly, quick bullets that we'll talk about here. First and foremost, let's look at what, with game turn 4, it started a new day. So I hinted at this at the end of last video, but let's look first at what the gameplay notes were for game day 2, which is essentially game day 4, or game turn 4 I should say. So weather, we got squalls again, and now we're in the northwestern Pacific, Sea of Japan, the Japan zone, the Bonin Islands, and Central Pacific. Soviets gained 1 satellite detection for this game day. Armistice marker moved, as I had said before, and as I discussed in the end of the last video, we got some serious victory points for that, and that was great. I'm actually seeing some hope that the Soviets can, as long as the armistice marker moves and I can meet my objectives and hold him off from hitting his objectives, I could potentially win this war, at least politically. Key thing here, random events. We rolled for random events. The Soviets got a commando strike, and I picked the base Komatsu. And you'll see why that's important here when we go back to the map. And then we, of course, rolled for reinforcements. Real quickly, how we're doing the random events in this module, this vassal module, which is built on the 5th Fleet rules, but it also has elements of the 7th Fleet, 2nd Fleet. It's got elements of all the fleets in it. I made sure that those rules that were pertinent to each game are in the game. So let's look at what I'm talking about right here. But key thing here is random events. Soviets do the commando strike. That was a big hit for me for the day. So let's look at what's going on. All right, so we'll get to the Komatsu random events here in a minute, but just to look at our turn track here and basically go over what allied kills we got, and we'll see what happened here. So for the allies, you'll see his task force 8. I pegged it down. I believe that's where I placed my satellite detection, and I wanted this fleet because it has 3 convoys in it, slow convoys. Want those killed. In this attack, I attacked. I can't speak. I'm assuming it was an air attack. I can't think of any other way I would have hit him based on the assets that were nearby. But he lost a frigate, and we'll see that right here. He lost the Ingram. That was added to the pile between the end of game turn 3 and game turn 4, and the Hall was hit. So that was a good find and a good kill for me. If we go down to where Task Force 8 is, I'll show you guys. His Task Force 8 is right here out in open sea. It is in a squall zone, so realistically, I have nothing around it, so it had to be airstrikes, and that's cool. That's the whole point of putting strategic detection markers down and finding those groups that are the most important for me to kill. And obviously it's a task group now because he only has the Hall, the Beadley, and the Vandergrift left as defense. When he had the Ingram there, it was considered a task force. So anyway, Task Force 8 was hit, damaged the one frigate, killed one, and thus made it a task group. Second thing that happened in this turn that was important, his reinforcement placements, he got Task Force 9 showed up. This is a good a reinforcement cycle for the Allies. The Kitty Hawk showed up with the Valley Forge, the Long Beach, the Fife, Preble, the Seattle. And look at this, all these amphibious assault ships show up. So, you know what? That just became vital for me to kill because I want these amphibs dead. I don't want them getting to Korea or Hokkaido. You can land them, I believe, in Korea or Hokkaido based on the scenario setup. And he has the Halliburton. It's damaged here just off the hexagon where the Cap 9 is, or Task Force 9 is. So that was good for Scott. He had those assets show up. It says here I destroyed Task Force 18. So Task Force 18 is missing off his list. But when we look at what Task Force 18 was made of, it was these corvettes and these patrol craft. One patrol craft. So it was the South Koreans. They had formed up a little flotilla here. Wasn't a great amount of kills, but I'll take the VPs, right? There's 10 victory points right there, killing that flotilla, that task group right there. So that was good. What happened against me? Soviets lost Victor 2. So the Mironenko was sunk. That was a bummer. And I lost this SS, this diesel boat. This is Arnitsa. The Soviets lost a Su-24. We lost a Su-24 interceptor. Good flight range on that bird. I don't know how I lost that, but I'm assuming it was on a raid, obviously, when he hit one of my bases. And that was it. The only other real critical thing that I want to point out with game turn 4 is Komatsu. And that is right here. Komatsu is an air base. Okay. With combat air patrol flying over Komatsu, you will see that the islands, the home islands of Japan, are nothing more than a wall of air for me. So with that special event of the commando raids that we rolled, I was lucky to be able to place a damage marker. A commando raid allows you to place a damage marker on an air base, and I was able to place a damage marker. So I picked Komatsu. Reason I picked Komatsu, well, by shutting down that air base at the end of game turn 4, his cap has to land. Actually, at the beginning of game turn 4, the attack happened, so his cap couldn't take off. That's why I was able to hit these guys. And because of that air corridor being open, 2 hex air corridor being open, that allowed my backfire bombers my Badgers, all these bombers right here. Looks like there's only one set of bombers, just the Badgers. I know, I moved my backfires up here to Korsakov. They will be available next turn. So all these aircraft are now able to fly away from the Soviet mainland here and have an air corridor over Japan to strike out into the sea zones and where all of his task groups and task forces are. So those were key events that happened in 4, and it was real critical. Real quick bullet as far as how our game works here in terms of what I was saying, how I've combined all these rules. If we look at the tables button here, right here, chart window. Anyway, if you go over to miscellaneous charts, you will see that, well, first of all, let's do this. Here is the negotiations card. Okay, so we saw it was on start, moves to peace talks, move to negotiations begin. So when we look at the armistice tab, we find out that when he rolled, it was advanced the marker. And so excuse me guys, I'm thinking here, I'm thinking what would happen. Oh, okay, so advanced armistice marker, so that's easily explained. Then we did our random events table here, and he rolled a 9 commando raid. Then he rolled for who, what side, and of course it came up for the Soviets. So that's where my commando raid came from, and boom, it was awesome here. Then we rolled on the commando raid table, and I got a damage 1, which allowed for me to place that right there. So that opened up that corridor for my aircraft to fly. I'm going to minimize this for a second so that we get rid of that weirdness of the map there. And that was that's basically everything that happened in game turn 4. We can scroll up and down here real quick. You can see that our Northwest Pacific area is definitely going to be a hotbed of Soviet subs hunting these surface ships. He's got a couple U.S. subs here that are in defense, but I got a bunch of subs coming out of the Sea of Okhotsk, I should say, and I've got a lot of subs here in the Northwest Pacific, strategically around his cap or Task Force 9, which was lucky for that's where his task force was to be placed on the reinforcement card. So it was just luck that I have all these subs around it. So that was cool. We look right here and you will see that I did hit his blue back. Task Force 1 did attack this diesel boat there from the U.S. fleet, blue back. So that one was damaged. Other than that, everything else is pretty much status quo. His task forces are still moving north, and we're kind of playing cat and mouse with everything else. So let's go to let's just go to the game turn 5 here now. Okay, so all right. Yeah, as we can see here, this is basically where the last turn track left off, picking up on game turn 5. So we're on game turn 5. You can see here at nighttime my Badgers, or my backfires will be coming available. So at the end of this evening, I'm going to get this electronic warfare and this backfire bomber group in Kosolev or something like that, where I moved them. So that's awesome. So let's see what happens. All right, first I will remove the local to text. I'm just going to click through these. You're going to see things go from, it might say, you might see something like strategic to tech move or removed off it, but what happens is when I use the hotkeys, it cycles through so you'll see them local, strategic, and then off. So these just disappear. All right, I don't see any when I will roll for local detection. I don't see any. When you go through this log file, check me on this before you continue. So going through this, the play sequence, cap phase, replenishment, local detection, removal. This would have been at the end of the last game turn 4 into the new game turn, which is local detection phase here. But it's none that I can see. So we continue on. I check for distance, line of sight, basically, or range. I'm going to start with surface. So you will see that I continue, but I don't move my surface shit there. It doesn't get moved until he moves it for me in his action cycle. But anyway, my ships keep moving north. This Task Force 4 and this Task Force 3 are vital to get up to the Kamchatka Peninsula there so that I can get those slow convoy vessels into my objective hexes and get those points. And there's some big points there for me. All right, Task Force 1, though, does have a location on this blueback diesel boat, and I attack it. I roll a 2, and it says here, surprisingly, that is a kill. So if we look at my Task Force 1, why is that a kill? Task Force 1, boop. Task Force 1 has 10, 17, 23 as a ASW. Well, if I pick the 3 best ships, this carrier, 10, the Riga at 6, and the Tubrick, or the Tubrick at 7, so 23. So I attack with 3 on his blue back there. And we look at the CRT, and I rolled a 2. So a 2 on 23 is a 3 damage. The blue back has a 6 defense, and the blue back sinks. So that was a nice kill for me. That's 6 victory points. It goes in. Actually, no. I believe diesel boats are only worth half in this. So that was only 3 points, but still nothing better than a kill. We are probably seeing this stuff, being placed there. The blue back is placed, and we continue here. My ships move. Then Task Force 5, you're going to see it zigzag around here because I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. It's just kind of sitting there. So let's bring up the next map, which is his action cycle. All right, let's see what he has then. So pick here. We click, and he's going to call up surface. So first, as I said, he moves my surface token there because that's what we went first, and now he brings up his. All right. Let's see what he does with his boat. The one thing about this turn, first of all, you'll see him move his Task Force 3 out over Task Force 8. As we talked about it before, game turn 4, I hit this Task Force, and I hit it good with a sinking those 2 frigates, or damaging a frigate and sinking a frigate. So he brings Task Force 3 out over Task Group 8, so as to provide air cover for it. What is his Task Force 3, you might ask? His Task Force 3 has the Wasp, which means he's got Harriers on that. Understand, in 7th Fleet, these amphibs are not, you don't get, in the setup, you don't get Harriers on the Wasp. We play with 5th Fleet rules. So there is combat aircraft on that amphibious ship. There are no air early warnings, no AEW aircraft, just the Harriers. So at least he's got that. So that's why he's got a cap 16 over there, but it's not a cap in AEW because it doesn't have any radar support. All right. So again, he just moved his Task Force 2. You would have seen that move here a few minutes ago. And he is looking for, trying to move that Task Force 2 around my sub. Again, Task Force 2 has these beautiful targets here maritime prepositioning ships. So he's trying to make sure Task Force 2 is not. Let's go back to where Task Force 2 is. Task Force 2 is, he's trying to make sure that that ship does not, or that fleet does not get found, because I've got the Sura real close here, which has cruise missiles. Well, not that the cruise missiles can help me, but it has a great surface-to-surface strike at 24. So I need to find that task force there. And I want to see here, Task Force 2. 1, 2, 3. This actually should only be a task group, but it doesn't matter right now because it's not getting attacked. He's moving his task forces here. 5 and 4 are his carriers. I don't know where the cap marker is for this. Maybe we'll see it appear here. Oh, there it is right there. Out in the South Pacific Zone. He must have mouse clicked it weird, but he put it back. So there's cap 5. Actually, might have been shut down from the previous turn, but I don't think so. Moving tankers. These Japanese tankers are targets of mine, but he just moved them under air cover, both of his carriers. So, and then boom, he moves it into there, and what you're going to see is he pulls task group 7 in, which is all these little groups, and then task force 6 moves, task force 20 moves. One of the key things you guys are noticing here, he's moving ships, but he's moving them in squall zones, and in squall zones you're only able to move 2. I point this out to him. He does a correction, and we're not going to, because you're going to see even this, boom, 3. That ship group moved 3. His task force 9 picked up the Halliburton, moved 3. Can't do that, and I point that out to him. He does a correction file. I'm not going to go through the correction file because all it does is just show where he moved the ships back, but you'll see that on my turn. So let's bring up the next map. All right, so we are now done with the first 2 action segments, and we needed a roll of initiative. So I say, okay, cool, we need an initiative roll for new series. It's my intention that if he got the initiative on this roll, I would have stopped the log file right then and there, and of course turn it over to him. But I roll a 9, which means I go, which is cool. Soviets, and it was a 9, so of course all my other rolls will be shite. So, and first I'm going to swap out the Archangel Skya piece. Okay, real quickly to explain that. When I put together this module for Vassal, I was noticing that a lot of the, in the second fleet, a lot of the boomer class, the Typhoons and all that stuff, the counters were built a certain way. And they had, let me go back real quick, let me show you. Okay, they had torpedo value and ASW value and all that stuff on the Archangel from 7th Fleet, but the boomers of 2nd Fleet, I wanted to create a consistency for the classes. So what I ended up doing here, and you'll see this if you use my module for any reason, you're going to see that the Soviets now have an Archangel Skya as a boomer, which just has this ASW value that it only uses for detection. And then there's also an SN version of the Archangel Skya. Where is it at here? And it has a 7 by it for 7th Fleet. And then, of course, it has the ASW value and an 18 torpedo value. There's another one like that, and it's a 5th Fleet vessel. And you'll find it here, the Neiman, which is another, I think, a Typhoon or something like that. But she is in 5th Fleet. She looks like that. But if you use it in your own game, you're going to also find the Neiman here as a boomer for using them as objectives instead of using them as attack part of, part of the attack assets. The reason I added it to 7th Fleet here is because it's kind of counted as one of my assets for combat, and by not having a normal combat counter in the game, I was kind of shooting myself in the foot, especially down here in the Philippine or South China Sea Zone, where there's no sub presence hardly at all. So anyway, I changed. That's what it says there. I'm going to swap out the Archangel Sky piece, and that's what you see where I put the new one in there instead and took out the old one. Now I will go with subs. It says here. So click. You'll see my sub marker move. And there's nobody to attack. You're just going to see my subs kind of move about. I moved the Sura close to task group 2 to try and peg that thing down. I basically just move my subs all about. So I'm going to kind of click through this real fast. We don't need to watch anything here. Bringing those subs up here in the Pacific Sea Zone around his Task Force 9 though, because there's blood in the water here soon. I'm going to try and get me some kills there. Again, not knowing what to do with it. You see me go up and then back, and that was it. So my subs basically move. So let's continue here. Get the next map. All right. So we will see him. He calls up subs. So we continue. And hey Doug, I did a roll for initiative. It was yours. He was just commenting on the fact that I wrote we need to do an initiative roll. I guess he had done one in his. Also, I thought you only become detected if you merge with a detected task force task group, and that is not the case. Whenever you move into a hex with a strategic detection on the ships in there, anything else that moves into the zone becomes strategically detected too. All right, we continue. So he puts his tankers. This is what you're seeing. This is gonna. Let's just go here. You're gonna see him moving his task force group or task force 5 around as he brought those tankers in. The Japanese tankers. Those are objective ships for me to kill, but they're also objective ships for him to get to his Japanese. If he can get to the Japanese mainland with those, he gets those 9 points per ship. Okay, the Archangel is effed up on my end. That was because he hadn't updated to the current version of my module, which had the new counters. So he was seeing some weird stuff there. All right. The Archangel's detect roll. He rolls and does not. I do not find him. The rest of his subs continue to move. These Japanese subs, or not Japanese, but these Chinese subs, US subs, kind of all pushing out away from their place. What is that one? Let's go back a minute. That is the Springfield. This is another LA class ship that he's got out there in the Central Pacific. That's a good ship to bring in. He's getting it closer. His Japanese diesel boats are moving about. Now he's moving the San Juan and the New York closer to try and stave off this offensive that I'm making with my subs against his task force. Kind of making sure everybody gets a chance to detect. Done. He rolls for initiative for the last action segment. It's me, and we will pause just to bring up the next map. All right. Now, this is where you're going to actually find some value, not value, but enjoyment out of this particular video, because this is where it gets good. We bring up the last action segment for my units, which is air. Okay, I say here, I think the Archangel looked messed up because you were running 1.1.2, not 1.1.4, which was the most current at the time. We're actually on 1.2.1 now, with all my changes. Okay, so obviously it's my last thing I can move is air. So I start getting a little colorful language, or not language, but colorful writing here, narrative. Okay, after days spent over the planning mat, Stavka's finally initiated orders to the Far East Command Air Force and final action segment air. I will start in Nha Trang. Elements of the Soviet long-range aviation bomber forces launch. So I launch the T-95F Recon, Tupolev 16C Bomber, Tupolev 16E Electronic Warfare, and a Tupolev 16G Bomber. All right. In all, that's 3 air-to-air strength, but bombing strength, I've got 110. You will see that I change their mission profile, and that's what these little banners are at the bottom. And I'm going with a high mission profile because I need the additional range. You can, on electronic warfare and on bombers and fighters, you can do a high mission profile, which will allow you to increase your flight range by 25%, but it affects your aircraft defensively because they get a +2 to their roll to attack on any defense, air defense rolls. So, but that gives me a 25% range increase. So on my Tupolev 95F, it's no big deal because that already has 160 range. But the 60s basically are where we're at. So 25% of 60s puts these at 75 each. So I can, because I can fly 75 total hexes, I can go 37 range out and 37 back, of course. So the aircraft launch, and you're going to see them fly. Got a zigzag around his combat air patrols in the Philippines there, and they head north into the Pacific Ocean. All right, we get to Central Pack, and Task Group 8 is right there, and I fly into his air cover. So, bottom line, they will have a high mission profile, which will increase my range to 25, which gives this group a max flight range of 75, and will give you +2 modifier on your defense rolls. Okay, that is 37 movement. You said you wanted your Harrier. I texted him and asked him if he wanted his Harriers to jump my flight in. He said yes. So you said you wanted your Harriers to attack. You have an 8. You have no AEW over the Wasp, so your cap strength is at 1/8 at range 4. So you're 7 on Harrier. Because let's see what his cap 18 Harrier looks like here, guys. Cap 18's down here. No, where's it at? Cap 16, excuse me. Cap 16 is a Harrier jet here with a 7 strength air-to-air. That's on the Wasp. So a 7 at 1/8 is reduced to a 1. I have a 3 strength with an EW in my flight. So that gives me a 3-to-1 odds against him, or 1-to-3 odds against him, I should say. I have an EW, which means he's going to -2 from his dice roll because of the electronic warfare. He is the attacker, so I'm rolling for his attack roll. If we look at the air-to-air combat, it's a 1-to-3. Okay, he's got a -2, so his roll is a 5. 5 - 2 is a 3. On the 1-to-3 is 1 step of damage and a return. So we see that is 1 step and a return. So his Harriers are sent back to the Wasp and clears the air for me. And I did damage to his flight of Harriers there. That's awesome. So my bombers will attack with 110 SSM strength. I first roll for location. I roll a 1, and that is the bottom of the stack. So if we look at the stack of his ships here for Task Force 8, bottom of the stack is Convoy 6, the Vandergrift, and Convoy 5. As I say here, Convoy 5, 6, and I will put 64 into the Vandergrift, and 32 into Con 6, and 14 into Con 5. Area air total is 8, so the Vandergrift has a defense of 13, Con 5 is 11, and Con 6 is an 8. All right. You have a +2 to your defense die roll due to my high mission profile, but my electronic warfare aircraft negates that. So you have a standard roll, your roll. So that was the benefit of having that EW in there. So we're going to bring up the CRT for his roll here. And we'll go back to the CRT. As I said, he has a area air of 8. If we look at his fleet here. He's got a 2, 5, 8. Okay, so con 6 is just defended by itself with the 8 area air. Vandergriff has an additional 5 for close air, so that's on the 13, and the con 5 has the defense of the hull, so that puts that at 11, and that's where those numbers come here from, 13, 11, and 8, right? So when we go 13 and 11, that's on the same column, so those ships, the Vandergriff and con 5 are going to be on the same 10 to 13 column, and con 6 will be here in the 7 to 9. So let's so you have a standard roll. Your roll for defense, he rolls an 8, not a bad roll. So an 8 on 7 to 9 is a 5, and on 10 to 13 is a 5. Both of them are a 5. Of course, you get a higher roll. That gives me a -5 on each attack. I also take a -1 to my roll for range because I'm 1 hex away from my target. So I'll have a -6 on my roll against these ships. So I will roll the Vandergriff first, then con 6 and con 5 in that order. Here's my 3 rolls. 8, 9, and 3. Beautiful set of rolls, right? I even say that. So a -6 on each of these. So 8 minus 6 is a 2. And I attacked the Vandergriff with 64. So we go 2 over to the 64 column, and we see that as a 6 or 2. We see that as a 5. And the Vandergriff has a 3 defense. Boom, it's gone. The 9 minus 6 is a 3. That is on the 32 column. A 3 on the 32 is a 4, and his convoys each have a 4. And then finally the 3 minus 6 is a -3 on the 14, and that's a 0 because that was the last bout there. So we'll see here. Vandergriff is hit with a 8 minus 6 is a 2 on a 64. That's a destruction. Con 6 is hit with a 9 minus 6 is a 3 on 32, destruction, and con 5 is missed. So you will see as I pull his ships out, place him on the kill pile, and con 5 moves into the close-up category there. And my bombers return, so you're going to see that next as they fly back. And they land back in Nha Trang. Next flight launch is same setup. So here out of the Soviet Union, the Badgers launch with a 60 and a 70 with an electronic warfare aircraft. I'm going to do the same thing with a high mission profile, and they take off, and we have that air corridor open over Japan, which is awesome. See them fly down here. We get right up against Task Force 8 instead of having to be 1 away. My bombers, next flight launch is same setup. That is a 33, and it's 33 on a range of 37. So I roll for location. I roll a 9. On a 9 or a 0, he gets to pick wherever he wants all of the attack to go to. I texted him, and he said con 4. So he wants everything on con 4. Con 4 here. So he's got an area air now of 5, and his con 4 just sits over the Beadley, which gives him a 10 defense. He gets a +2 to his dice roll. Again, my electronic warfare negates that because of the high mission profile. He gets +2, but my EW negates that to 0. So he just gets a basic roll on the 10 column. He rolls a 0. Boom, which is awesome. So I have a 50 AS or air-to-surface missile attack here, and so that's a -1 to my attack based on the 0 result defense. Because I rolled a 9, I also have to take a -6 for my attack, rolling a 9 on location. So I have a total of -7 to my roll. Here's my attack roll. I roll a 7. That is a hit. So when we look at the column, like I said, I have a 50. So I rolled a 7. I -7. 0 on 50 is a 3. 0 on 50 is a 3. Task group 8. Why am I drawing a blank here? Oh, because it didn't exceed his kill box, but it hit him. So his counters flipped, and that's what we see there. So if that convoy flips. Also, when you look at my counters here, the slow convoys, when they flip, become fast convoys. That was a mistake in my setup, so I fixed that in later iterations of the module, which is why we're playing on 1.14, but we're currently up to 1.2.1 because I'm always having to update something, and those bombers return. So that was an effective combat round for me. Finally, the back, another Badger bomber strike leaves out of 2138 here, which is Yuzhno Sakhalinsk, and they also take a high mission profile, but also they take a extended range profile. So the combination here gives me what's a extended range profile? It's a common. I gotta see what that flag's supposed to mean there, because when it's split like that, it means you're two profiles. So it gave me. It says here, my bomber launches with a high mission profile and an extended range profile for 50% more. Oh yeah, 25% for high mission, 25% for extended range. The high mission gives you a +2 to your defense roll, but because of the extended range option that I took, my attack values are halved. So there's the two things that it benefits him for. So that is a 42 range out of 45. I make 42 hexes, but I could have gone 45 because I would have had 90 as the total range, but halved is 45. So I roll for location. I roll a 3, which is bottom of the stack again. Bottom of the stack here is the Beadley and Con 5. And I will put 25. That's all I've got is my total. No, I got 60. Halved would be 30. So I fit 25 into the Beadley and 5 into Con 5. You have an area error 5 total, and Beadley is on 10 and Con 5 is on 8. You get a +2 to your die roll for my high mission profile. He rolls a 3 + 2, it's a 5. So that is a -4 on my attack for the Beadley and a -3 on my attack for Con 5. I will roll Beadley first. I roll a 3 and 7. So what we see here is the Beadley is struck because if you look at the CRT, I rolled a 3 at -4. 3 minus 4 is a -1, and I was putting 25 into the Beadley. Set as a 2, that's still a hit for 2 damage on the Beadley. Con 5 was 7 minus 3 is a 4 on 5. That's a 2. Both ships are hit, and that is a good Sunday. That was the day I did this log file, was a Sunday. So those jets fly back with a happy result there. So my air units have had a very good day on kicking the crap out of Task Group 8 there. He returns, and that is all I have. So that was all my vaunted bomber groups. So let's bring up the last map here. Okay, guys. He wasn't real happy. He just basically just gives me a high dug. He calls up his last group, which is air. Our last token moves there. Now, the one thing about this action segment, you're going to see him end the turn, end his actions, and he starts clearing things up by accident, and he puts it all back. So we won't go through all that. He flies a strike group north here to attack this task group here, Task Force 3. My Task Force 3 is laden with my convoy vessels. I got 3 of them in there, so obviously he's doing a tit for tat. So he is going to attack them. I've got a cap 5 here up in that Stavlovska, whatever it's called, Yuzhno Sokolinsk, cap 5 there, and then I've also got a cap over my Task Force 3. So my total strength there on the 2 is cap 5, which is 20 points there for some MiG-29s and Su-27s, and then over Task Force 3 is Harriers, or Yak-36, not Yak-36 is there. So that's 4. So I got a 25 strength, I think, or 24 strength. So you choose to jump me with cap because he asked me if I wanted to, and so he marks my cap. So the cap attacks. I don't know why his cap came up there. Your U-23 cap versus me 33 cap. My cap was actually 24, but whatever. -2 for my EW. 1 to 2 odds. We're on the 1 to 2 odds. He's the attacker. He rolls a 7. That's a 0, 0 return. So his flight was returned. No, oh, because cap 1 was there. It would have had the range to jump in. So there you go. All right, now like I said, he starts. That was the only thing he did. Now he's doing local detection removal, which is fine because it's the end of the game turn. We're going into it's the end of the whole bit there. But he also pulls strategic air, which he didn't need to yet because that's done at the end of game turn 6, and that was it. So that's the whole bit of this video here. 46 minutes. I'm really trying to keep these at 30, but I keep talking a lot, guys. I apologize. Anyway, pretty successful for the Soviets. I wasn't unhappy about this round. We killed some convoy ships. In fact, I've denied him 40 victory points right there thus far. Got one of his nuke boats down and one of his diesel boats. Killing a bunch of fast frigates here that are protecting all these ships. So good stuff going on. There were no changes in my kills. He got nothing this game turn, so that's great. The other good thing is with the night turn starting 6 here, I have my backfire bombers coming available, which is great. Here's another great thing. I got Task Force 9 pegged down, and that's the Kitty Hawk. And this is where it starts to get fun. I finally have a target that isn't double covered with enough F-14s to basically make it untouchable. So anyway, that's all for now. If you like this video, I appreciate giving it a thumbs up and telling people about it if people have the same interest. Otherwise, I'll talk to you on the next one. Thanks, guys.